Singing, oh, reduce the damage done to me. Oh,
Hey guys, this is James and Tim with Tabletop Terrors, and today we're coming at you with episode 3 of Damage Reduction, our world-building podcast. Today we talk about the Copper Sun, a large city in, actually the capital city, of one of our main regions, Innis, in Dragongrin. We talk about where it came from, sort of what it looks like, who lives there, how they came to live there, and we also talk about a race of aquatic elves that had a hand in helping them out and were later sort of exiled through, different means that we kind of talk about. And so we cover a lot of interesting stuff and open a lot of doors for later podcasts and, fleshing out our world.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's jump in.
So I'm thinking we start with something that we talked about briefly back when we were really fleshing out Dragongrin, the Copper Sun, which mainly the only thing we really know about it is it's a city that is inside of Innis, which is the quote-unquote good side of our place. Grin is the bad place, Innis is the slightly more normal, not as terrible place, and we've got this big place called the Copper Sun, and I think we can focus on that today.
Okay, cool. So, all right, so let's talk about, when you say the Copper Sun and you call it a city, one of the things that immediately comes to mind for me is I don't want it to just be a city with a wall around it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, the reason why I want it to be the Copper Sun, I imagine it as being some sort of ancient technology, whether it's the Titans or, whoever has this technology. But I imagine if, I wish I could draw better than I can, but I want it to be a series of discs, flat sort of discs that are various levels that almost are like an orrery, which is the thing that has like the globe and the planets that spin around and they have their actual axes and things when you spin them. I almost imagine it like that.
So basically a floating city.
Yes. So it is floating. I imagine that it is floating, but I imagine it's like almost like on an axis.
It's not necessarily the sometimes iconic chunk of ground has been lifted from the earth and it's just a city with a wall around it that happens to be in the air.
No, exactly. Not like the cool earthen jagged rock. No, and not clouds, but like this
rocket boosters.
Yeah, totally. Just these
rocket boosters.
It's 16-bit. And they just float up and down as the animation. It's
very slowly, yeah, And then you can choose on the map. You can choose go to Copper Sun, and you're like, yeah,
and it goes. Your little guy runs up the little.
Yeah.
It's dots connected by a line, like in Mario 3. So, what I'm thinking is it's like I imagine it being on an axis. So, the eastern side, say, is taller or higher up on a diagonal axis, and then the western side is closer to the bottom of the ground, and it's like as the day goes on, it shifts.
Okay, so
moves like a bunch of flat plates, but just
are the thing so visualizing this, it's like, okay, floating city. There's a bunch of different discs. Is there anything in the middle? Are they orbiting anything?
I think it should be one centric disc, one centralized maybe circle.
Okay, yeah.
With this awesome capital right in the middle.
That's the main the main square of the city is this
exactly
area. And then there are the districts, we'll call them, are the ones that are floating. Now, how people generally are going to have to travel between these things throughout the day. Do you know of a way that, you want to try and figure out how in the world that happens? Is it simple?
Well, I want them to be connected somehow.
Okay.
Now, I don't think that I think we can come up with some interesting ways to do this, because I don't want it to be I've got to walk all the way across the whole mall.
Yeah.
To get to, where it's this tiny little bridge that goes all the way across.
A little rope bridge you got to cross.
Yeah,
and if somehow it's severed or if there's a storm and it breaks, it's nope.
It's
Western
over.
District is just cut off.
Cut off. Well, and this is an interesting story. My wife's cousin works as a prison guard, and he has to get to work 30 to 40 minutes early because he works so far back in the prison. It takes him about 20 to 25 minutes just to walk all the way into the maximum
gets
security.
to work, basically. And then it's all right, I'm at work. I still have a 30 to 40 minute or a 20 to 30 minute commute.
Exactly.
From the opening of my work to the back of my work security. Where I work.
And so I don't want that to be the case. I don't want it to be that,
it's a little cleverer than that. If somebody has to go from the Eastern District to the Western District, it's not like, all right, well, that's my day gone.
Oh, you know what would actually be really interesting? An internal, smaller... Because I imagine it being like, okay, take the gear from a bicycle. Okay? Now you're holding that gear in front of you so that you're looking at its face. Okay, now turn that gear so that it's flat. Now, put another circular piece around the gear, but make it so that it's vertical.
Yeah.
So it's like this vertical circle surrounding the flat gear. Then put another one and another one, almost like an atom.
Yeah, and there's
sort of.
Okay, that's a good way.
So like it's an atom, so it's like this rotating, but I'm thinking, what if it's this awesome mass transit system of these circulating like nuclei, essentially. It's like, oh yeah, you get on this platform and it'll take you to this and it'll take you to this. So you have to get on the rotating portion that you need to get on because it's going to rotate every 10 or 12 minutes to get you to the next place, the next place. So it's this connected. It would be like if you take a little tiny dot and put it on the bike gear and then ride your bike.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now you're at the bottom, get off. Or
exactly.
You're at the side.
It moves throughout the day, so it's kind of like the subway.
Yeah.
But you get on it and all right, it's not so much the L train, it's more like, no, this one in 10 minutes is going to be basically at the same level as the Western District. So
it's like, and I imagine the whole thing, the reason why it's called the Copper Sun is I imagine it being golds and coppers and silvers and these very, intricate stoneworking and things like that. It's a very sturdy, very strong kind of place. But I like that mass transit system of
and I think,
rotating nuclei.
I think the important thing is this is very contrasted by the rest of Innis. So this is the Copper Sun. This is like, say, the capital city of Innis. But there's nothing like this anywhere else. Like, this is very special. Right. There's not a bunch of flying cities. It's this one.
And I have an idea for that.
Okay.
So I want it to be the last city.
Oh, all right.
Right? So, like, what do I mean? Well, there are other cities and villages and towns and stuff like that. But if our world is points of light, if our world is lots of bad things and then some points of good, I want this to be the capital of, okay, it's definitely safe. It's rotating, it's floating. But I think that this would be where all of the forces that remained, who were of the elves, the dwarves, there was a lot of casualties.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that they had to kind of collect into this place.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like the new country, so to speak. It's a city, but it's a multifaceted, multicultural city. So there's a dwarven platform, there's an elven platform, no one likes this.
Yeah, this is sort of like an amalgamation of, this is where, if you have money, you go there. This is like, no, this is the safest place. This is the place to be. And like you said, nobody likes it, but what's the alternative?
Right.
Living on the ground floor with who knows?
Right, and it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not the solution, it's a stopgap.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So they're like, let's reconnoiter here. Let's get together and figure out what our next steps are against Grin.
And this actually, the thing that comes to mind, and again, this is all off the cuff, I've just thought of this, is Zion from The Matrix.
Yes.
Where it's like, no, this is where everybody is, but it's not safe forever. Like, this is just like, for now, we have to do something. This is any day now, we're getting pushed out of here.
Right.
I had another example, but I don't remember it. But yeah, that sort of, this is the safest place of the unsafest places.
Right. And so I like the idea that it's cultural mishmash.
Yeah, exactly.
No one necessarily can call it home. Everyone's complaining. The dwarves are complaining that it's not the Sphere Mountains. The elves are complaining that it's not, the deep forests of Innis.
It's like all immigrants and refugees. But,
right.
Not like cobbled together with tents. It's like, no, this is a really beautiful, built out city. But, everybody, tensions are high because, like you said, everybody wants it to be their thing.
Right.
But it kind of has to be everybody's thing.
And that's something we need to figure out. Who runs it? I'm imagining there'd have to be some sort of council.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just...
Yeah, have a big old city.
Well, I'm thinking, though, that causes conflict.
Exactly.
Who's going to be in charge? Is it the person with the most military left alive? Or is it who's running the thing, who found the thing, who is smart enough to know how to work it and keep it operational. Because I imagine this thing is just, it's very powerful, but I imagine that it's also very weak on energy.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is like some shining star that's like, oh yeah, we're ready to go. I think it's like, hey,
we're barely hanging on here.
Yes. Like, we need to continue to find more energy. We need to continue to find more food. We need to get the gardens growing up here. Like, it's not some kind of safe and happy place. It's a safe place that's, like you said, the best of all the bad places, but there's still tensions.
Exactly.
Maybe even food rations, water rations, things like that.
And of course, probably plenty of non-war related, intrigue and different things going on. People
definitely.
Die. People don't like each other enough to rob each other. It's not the perfect place, but again, it's just, murder is less common here, maybe.
Right. Well, sure, it's because it's easier to track people.
Exactly.
It's easier, yeah. And so, it's, to me, I like the idea that this thing can't just up and move.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's too weak.
Well, and more so, I think this is technology that not everybody understands. Or really, I would even venture to say that nobody understands fully. So whether or not the Copper Sun can move, it's unlikely that even if it had the energy, somebody would know how to, say, pilot it. Whatever that function is. It's like, This is a place that they've come. This is not something that somebody's like, look at what I've created, or look at what I've found. They're like, hey, this is a thing we can use. And they have a very bare understanding of it.
Right.
It's not, like you said, they understand that, hey, this thing is potentially on its last legs. We need to do what we can. But, I think it could open a lot of interesting opportunities if, they don't know how this technology works. There's no way for them to replicate it. They can't make other cities like this or other technology using this, really cool, ancient, potentially Titan stuff. It's just a relic that they're hanging on to, that could fall out from under them literally at any moment.
Exactly. And part of it, like, I was imagining, I was working with Locrius for the upcoming Besieged campaign, and we were talking about, we wanted to make a race of aquatic elves. And this is all new to you, but I was talking to Locrius about this. And the idea for these aquatic elves was, they are, the best way to describe it quickly is, they're like the Blockbuster Video. They were the pinnacle of technology and magic, but they refused to change and adapt. So they slowly became obsolete.
Yeah.
But I almost want to say, like, now what was once this amazing underwater city is now this slum of, like, magical experimentation and, like, but Super Dungeon, anybody? But what I'm thinking is, I almost want them to be, like, double-crossed or something. Like, I almost want it to be, like, the aquatic elves knew sort of how to use this. It's like, hey, I got these tapes in this VCR. I don't really know. Can you explain to me how to hook it up to a TV? It's like, oh, yeah. But once they helped and kind of got it running, I want to say that it was, like, voted that there was no place for them on it.
Oh, yeah, basically, like, the consensus, some sort of events transpired where they're like, no, we really don't want them here. We just used them because they knew.
Right, and who knows how and why. Was it on purpose? I would love if it wasn't on purpose. Like, it was just this rock in a hard place where something was just so grindingly necessary where it's like, so it wasn't a double cross on purpose, but I was like, hey, things have changed. You guys can't.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I love that if the aquatic elves maybe even found this thing and that would be even worse if they're like, hey guys, we found a base. Look at this crazy thing. We found it in the water. And then it was like, yay, and they saved everyone or something, and then it slowly started to become less and less theirs, less and less theirs.
Yeah, and I feel like, okay, so you mentioned a council, so I could see it being like, okay, they get it going, and then somebody realizes, all right, we need some sort of council. And somebody behind the scenes, like you said, you don't know who, just sort of plants the little seeds, not necessarily even to push them out, but, like you said, these elves have really old ideas, and they're not as interested with, melding everybody together. They didn't realize that it would be like, no, everybody's going to come live here. Dwarves and elves and gnomes and whatever, it doesn't matter. Like you said, very cultural mishmash where they're like, no, it needs to remain pure. Almost like they, they screw it up for themselves. Not necessarily directly, but they fall out of popular opinion, and despite the fact that they were the reason the Copper Sun exists, they were voted out like, hey, we know you helped us, but we can't follow your ideals. Like,
no, I love it.
The world is different now.
I think it's great. Like, two things sprang to mind. Like, if the Gilderband dwarves, who are able to mine on the side of Ennis to fuel this thing, they found sort of a workaround fuel, but it's like, it's dangerous to mine or make or whatever.
Yeah.
And what if the aquatic elves are just absolutely like, no, like they're racist against dwarves. Like,
exactly.
Fully racist.
And but so much so that they don't want to use this, impure fuel for something so beautiful, even though it means that eventually it's going to fall out of the sky because there's no fuel.
Right.
They'd rather see it fall than be tainted.
And they're, we'll work on it. We're figuring it out. We'll take care of it. Something else, and this was more for flavor, with Locrius's character, I was thinking, what if these aquatic elves are so beautiful in the water? And why are you laughing?
Because I see where this is going.
No, it's true. The longer they spend out of the water, the more ugly they become.
Yeah.
So when these I could totally see the negotiations starting and all this thing starting, and it's like these beautiful aquatic elves, and
like very charming and just absolutely.
And then as time goes by, and we decided that the way that they'll look is like almost crocodile, like this skin will start to like scale and so
almost
on.
like they have like a natural defense mechanism almost for like, oh, you're in the sun, so we need something a little thicker, maybe something like that.
So what begins as these talks with this beautiful race who's saving the remnants of the good forces that have survived, in turn becomes these negotiations with these crocodile-looking elves.
Exactly.
And they become not only unpopular in their opinions, but unpopular in their look. They start having to wear cloaks and hoods and masks and things like that. And they become easy to vilify.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of a cool little thing for the Copper Sun there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting start, and, little stuff like that opens up just countless possibilities. I like not nailing down, who did it and why exactly, because I feel like later if we run a game or come up with, flesh out something else or another person, this is the perfect little socket for a really good idea that matches something else. Instead of, saying, well, so-and-so of this particular clan did it, and that sort of ties us up to, not really come up with something cool later and tie them together in a way that's, seems like it was natural.
Exactly. No, I love that. And aquatic elf assassins. Like, I just think now, it's aquatic elves are totally looked down upon because now they're considered dangerous. We've slighted them. If you see them, they will probably try to kill you.
Exactly.
Or take it back, or whatever the case is. So I love that.
Well, and in that same respect, it opens up a whole nother damage reduction we can do on the aquatic elves city where, like you said, they're using these outdated forms of potential, like magic. We're doing weird experiments, and just all of it together creates a very interesting race with a lot of conflict.
Right. That,
I don't know, I think could be just really awesome.
Totally. So is there anything else, as far as the Copper Sun that you kind of want to hit on in this or kind of talk through? Or
I think the main thing is not so much for our world, but for people listening that like to do world building. None of this is set in stone, but more importantly, we don't yet have an idea of, say, all the districts of the Copper Sun, or we don't know who's going to be on the council, or really who's going to be there. But right now, none of that is too important. We have the idea of, okay, really cool floating city, copper and gold, awesome, but, we don't know exactly what it'll look like, and we're not going to spend time deciding exactly how the mass transit system works before, we flesh out some of the, we'll call it easier stuff. The stuff that's a little simpler that doesn't require as much logistics.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't like wasting, or not wasting, but spending better spent time on the, transit system when instead we can figure out a few different things. So if somebody wanted to visit it today, we'd have a little more than, well, you can ride the train to the, to the district.
Exactly. Well, and when it needs to, we'll figure out a piece of the transit system for when it comes up, So one final thing that I thought was interesting, I'd like there to be some sort of, we've talked about this in the past, but like the Copper Militia.
Mm-hmm.
I want there to be this sort of group that's formed together of some dwarves and some elves and some humans and halflings and gnomes. And if you're wondering, if for anyone who's familiar with Dragongrin, our campaign setting, there still will be the Sphere Mountains. There will still be probably dwarves and gnomes in there, but they aren't going to be the only ones. So there will be dwarves and gnomes and probably halflings and things like that on the Copper Sun, but
Yeah.
I like the idea, and we have to think of this. I don't have an answer. It's more of a, hey, think of this. If an army, and just thinking Lord of the Rings style, if you have a full elven army who fights a very specific way with a style and a weaponry and so on, it's very difficult, I would think, to integrate that military with the dwarves
Yeah.
side by side.
Exactly.
So
Different tactics and whatnot.
exactly. So is there solution to have a dwarven militia and an elven militia? And is there a halfling militia? And is there a gnomish? That would just be interesting to look at.
Yeah.
And see how that comes together. Because let's just say, an enormous black dragon just broke out of the Sphere Mountains and attacked. Of course, everyone would muster and gather arms.
Exactly.
That wouldn't be a problem. But let's say an army marched on them and they had to decide how they were going to fight this army. It was going to be longer warfare. They'd have to think about this tactically and how are they going to do this and who is going to do what and so on. So, I don't know. I think it's more of a question than an answer, but I'm curious to see how we figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, where we're going to have to then flesh out a little bit more about the council and who has the power and who doesn't, and is it equal, and is it votes, and things like that, then trickle down to, okay, well, that's how they make that particular decision, and things, basically figuring out that sort of situation, I think, will beget a lot of other things. Like, okay, well, because that's how this other thing works, or because,
Right.
And I think world building that way makes sense, where, like we talked about, figuring out what you have to figure out next is a good way to do it, instead of just, picking and choosing and saying, well, no, we have to figure out, exactly where the ancient technology came from the Copper Sun.
Exactly.
Like, well, who knows? There are so many other web bits that will be important to. So it's like, well, no, let's figure out the stuff that we have a little more concrete, okay, people live there and stuff like that.
No, I love that, because that is, I think, a smart piece of world building advice. It's okay to ask a question and then not have the exact answer or the full answer.
Exactly.
And so instead of us stopping and go, all right, well, we need to figure this out right now, we're going to keep thinking of other things that inspire us, and we might not even hit on that for a long time.
Yeah.
So this has been about the Copper Sun, and we're going to continue to do this world building podcast where it's just the brainstorming, the ugly, the figuring it out, not having it all done. Because in the creative process, when I see other people's creative processes, like very famous authors and things, sometimes it's weird to me how basic their process is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm expecting some magic thing.
Yeah, like
It's like, it's
and
just
then
a
I go
guy.
back to my vault of my greatest ideas ever, and it's
Right.
like, no, he started with something that anybody could start with, but it was, being clever and, like you said, working through it in whatever process that got him to the end where I'm like, oh man, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah. So all of that to say, hopefully you're enjoying this. Don't forget to comment. If you're on tabletopterrors.com, you can see more of this. You can see our videos, you can hear other podcasts, read various articles, and don't forget, we are part of an independent publisher. So James and I are half of Absolute Tabletop. So go to absolutetabletop.com and you can download our supplements, and hopefully you enjoy those as well. So in the meantime, may your dice roll high.
Singing, oh, reduce the damage done